Good morning. Calling the regular meeting of the Township of Frontenac Islands to order on the 12th. We'll begin this meeting by acknowledging that we are meeting on land that has been under the stewardship of the Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, and the Huron-Wendat for time immemorial. As settlers, we are grateful for the opportunity to meet, live, and play on this land, and we thank all generations of Indigenous peoples from the past to the present who currently continue to extend the sharing of this land with us. We recognize and deeply appreciate their ongoing connection to this place. We also recognize the contribution of the Métis, Inuit, and other Indigenous peoples who now make this region their home, and who have both shaped and strengthened this community and our province and country as a whole. As settlers, this recognition of the contributions and ongoing importance of Indigenous peoples to the area must also be clearly and overtly connected to our collective commitment to make the promise and the challenge of truth and reconciliation real in our communities and to bring justice for murdered and missing Indigenous women and girls across the country. Now, is there a declaration of pecuniary interest in the general nature thereof? Seeing none, I will declare that I have a conflict of interest of an item that will be coming up, and I will regarding the proposed recommendation for bylaw. Speaking to it at that time. Now, the motion will be that council adjourns to form a council closed session at 9:30, and we will be reopening to a regular council at 10 o'clock. So anyone that's online that is not privy to the closed council will be put off, but they can rejoin at 10 o'clock.
Moved by Councillor Halton, second by Councillor Ackley, that council adjourn to form council in closed session at 9:30 a.m. regarding Municipal Act Section 239B, personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal employees, and Municipal Act Section 239C, a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality, and Municipal Act Section 239D, labor relations or employee negotiations, specifically concerning compensation study and disposition of land.
All those in favor? Carried. Now we're entering into closed session.
You'll have to move Steve off.
I'll see you later, Steve.
Welcome back.
It's connected to the gas. The cord was not coming up, but you should be okay for one. Okay. And then you got a bunch of people waiting. So.
Let me know when we have everybody out of the waiting room.
Yep, okay.
Okay, for the audience, we resumed from our closed session. We will be going back into closed session just before the very end of this meeting, but we were respectful that we knew you were counting on a regular meeting starting close to 10 o'clock, so that's what we're moving to now. So we're at the consent agenda. We have adoption and receipt of the minutes as well as information items. We have a mover and a seconder.
Moved by Counselor Holton, second by Deputy Mayor Saunders, that the April 14th, 2025 council meeting minutes be adopted as presented, unless there's any amendments, and that the information items be received and filed.
Okay, is there anyone that would like to have anything pulled from the information items? Okay, I will pull a couple then. The AMO April 17th and AMO May 8th. And the meeting of TSC, and that for April 23rd. For April the 17th, I just wanted to make note that there is mention in it of a bike summit in Windsor, May 27th to 29th. That's the sort of stuff that could easily be of interest to the communities, and that as we both see cyclists coming through here on Howe Island with the waterfront trail, as well as Wolf Island. So you should be made aware of that. It'd be nice if we had funds for traveling there, but at the very least, there's a huge economic and recreational aspect that the rest of the province is celebrating. And on the May 8th, there's mention of the Teeny Tiny Summit. It's going to be located in Strathroy and Carduck on June the 18th. And that is also very helpful for small business to take advantage of, and it's co-sponsored by the Ministry of Municipal Affairs, I believe, is the co-sponsor of it. It was also held in Picton this past month as well. On July 1st, there's a report on energy consumption. I just wanted to check to make sure that we're on target for making the report for energy consumption by the municipality to the province, and I would ask the CEO if they're on target for that.
I will defer to the treasurer. He's normally the one that fills them out, but if not, between the two of us, we can certainly look into it, make sure.
Because I believe it's mandatory.
Yeah, through you, Madam Mayor, yeah, we'll look into that and make sure that all requirements are met.
Okay, there's also an opportunity for Quest Canada's Net Zero Communities Accelerator Program for expression of interest. Need to be submitted by June the 13th. And that is a program that can help to target reduction in energy consumption. And it is specific for small and medium-sized municipalities, and it has support. So I bring that to your attention to potentially look at that. And the TSC meeting minutes that I know Councillor Halton wasn't able to attend that one, but do you have any information you can share?
I mean, you can read it there and seem to get one step ahead and two back on it, but it seems to be coming ahead now. There's a lot of things to consider. Really, what's really gonna help is when the Verona project moves along, and as it moves along, they're going through all the steps, and we'll learn a lot from there. Like I said, there was quite a discussion over where the lines are gonna go, to make sure they're on municipal property. Fire protection was a big discussion, so looking at alternatives for fire protection. So hopefully with Clearford, we seem to be getting more answers when we have questions. So hopefully in the next few months, we'll move along pretty good.
Okay, thank you very much. And seeing no other discussion, we can call a vote for accepting this.
All those in favor? Motion carried.
Okay, now we're going to staff reports. We have a finance report number FI 004-25, in-kind donations, use of the Wolf Island Community Center and Wolf Island Community Hall for the National Indigenous Presenters Gathering of Art and Visiting in 2025.
Thank you, through you, Madam Mayor. At the previous council, we had a presentation, from Dr. Terry Lynn Brennan, regarding the event that took place on Wolf Island last year, and they're looking to, have it again this year. Part of her request was, to request use of the Wolf Island Community Center and the Wolf Island Community Hall, as part of their event this year. This is just a quick report on what the cost of that in-kind donation would be. So for use of the community center for 2 days, the charge would be $900 per day, so a total of $1,800 of in-kind donations for the community center. For the community hall, they were just looking to use it for an hour in the morning each on October 7th and the 9th. The charge for nonprofit groups is $5 an hour, so the in-kind donation would be $10 there. Overall, the total in-kind donation would be $1,810 for the municipality to kind of subsidize the use of the space. The event was held last year, and for context, they were charged and paid those amounts to rent last year. So again, this year, they were just looking for the support from council to use the facilities. And then staff would just be looking for council direction on if these in-kind donations are granted, and then staff will work with the Dr. Terry Lynn Brennan and the other team to make sure they're all set up for their event, if that's the case.
Okay, questions, Councillor Ackley?
So before the discussion,
oh,
I'm
sorry.
sorry, the motion table. Moved by Councillor Jablonski, second by Councillor Ackley, that finance report number FN 004-25, in-kind donations, use of the Wolf Island Community Center and Wolf Island Community Hall for the National Indigenous Presenters Gathering, The Art of Visiting 2025 be received, and that council direct staff to either grant or decline the in-kind donations requested by Dr. Terry Lynn Brennan on behalf of the Lodgepole Arts Alliance.
Okay. Now,
That's pretty straightforward. I don't have any real comments.
okay, Deputy Mayor Saunders,
No questions. I would support this.
Councillor Halton,
Yeah, I support this. The only thing I would like to make sure that when she is telling who donated, like she has recognizes our donation. I mean, that's a fairly large donation, so I think we should be recognized for it.
okay, Councillor Ackley,
No, I have no.
Sorry.
Over here. No questions. Straightforward.
okay, are they not using chairs and that, because when you are talking about the hall and that, I know you had additional costs associated with chairs and tables.
Through you, Madam Mayor, the cost as far as hours request is just use of the space. I am not sure if they will require to be used chairs. I think historically, as far as the operations, like if there is kind of minor equipment things that we have on hand, it would be made available, but we don't charge per se right now, like for the rental chairs or tables or anything like that.
Okay, I thought that was part of your budgeting piece before and that. So we were charging $900 a day before that budgeting piece came out last year.
That change, that amount did not change through your Monday.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, so that's all the questions and all the comments.
So we're granting them?
All those in favor? Pass. Okay, now, finance report number FI 005-25 2025 Q1 year-to-date financial report.
Thank you, through Madam Mayor. So this report is something now that you've seen a few times, so it just kind of details the financial performance of the township at this point up to the end of March. To start it off, just at a high level, the township is in a really great position in the Q1, just looking at what was budgeted and what we have spent. So far, on the whole, revenues as a township is very aligned. We've captured 26%, so just over the 25% area. Expenses across the board, we still have 80% of the budget remaining. Again, for a quarter through the year, 75 is the target, so the fact that we have a little bit more is always a good sign early in the year. Capital expenditures on a whole, we haven't seen a whole lot of activity. Again, that's something typically You'll see more in Q2 and Q3. Those are our most kind of expensive months for capital expenditures. So overall, right now, as it stands at March 31st, there is a surplus of $344,000. What I would just like to say to temper expectations is that Q1 is typically, there are some expenditures like road and there could be overtime costs we see more, but typically those months we see less. I also want to just highlight that a lot of the capital activity and roads and stuff, that's coming in the summer. So basically, you know, we're looking at 25% of the revenues we raise for taxations. We're not spending some of those dollars until the summer. So that inflates the number there. But what I do want to just highlight is that we're seeing strong performance on both the revenue and the expenses. And this does put us in a really good spot going towards Q2. Just to kind of, as you've all read the report, but just to kind of quickly kind of go over the three main areas. So for general, again, revenues, everything's kind of aligned with expectations. Expenses as a whole have all been operating, you know, within the budgets or having over 75% of the budget remaining. Again, in the report, I just made mention to the administration department. Council also had a department had, you know, strong performance as far as what we spent. And a few other departments, but admin for the general departments is the largest. So when we're trying to track, you know, that grouping of departments, where admin is really kind of dictates how well, you know, financially performing. So it's good to see that there's, you know, significant budget remaining there. For general, there wasn't any capital activity in the first quarter. So currently right now, there's about $111,000 surplus. Moving on to Wolf Island, again, for most departments, they're within budget expectations. For some departments, for example, recycling, some of it has to do to timing. For example, we have money budgeted for circular materials, that won't take place till July 1st. So as a whole, kind of going through the numbers, there was nothing that really standed out as anything to cause worry. With regards to operating expenses, again, every department either was meeting or exceeding expectations. The one difference is the CCB department. So that's the one department where there's more of an exception. We're expecting to see a larger portion of the costs incurred happen in the first quarter when we have the rink operating and there's additional costs for that. And then we kind of expect to see the rest of the year, it kind of steadies out a bit more. But besides that, again, all departments were spending within budget and, you know, going into Q2, that puts us in a good spot. For capital activity, so there was some activity for reserve transfers or loan payments that appears in the report. The only purchase under Wolf Island was the purchase of the used water tank on the truck. So the budget amount for that was $35,000 and we were able to procure a used one to meet the needs of the township for $13,000. So for that capital purchase was $22,000 under budget. Again, as we kind of go into the roads and we have, you know, this year compared to last year, we definitely have a lot more capital expenditures. It's good to see that we are able to, you know, on some of these purchases start to get a surplus on them, to have that kind of extra buffer room as we kind of go through the year. Overall, Wolf Island Apartments at the end of the first quarter, we're looking at a $98,000 surplus. Again, as we'll see as we talk with Hal, across the board, we're seeing strong performance. Moving on to Howe Island, again, revenue for the most part, everything's looking good or meeting expectations. Howe Island Ferry Department captured over 25. Again, just to highlight, that's in due in part to the fact that we have the passes that we sell. We sell the bulk majority of them by the end of January, so we would expect that our revenue capture for the year is a bit higher. And then the other source of revenue is obviously the ticket sales that go throughout the year, and then the subsidy we receive from MTO. Again, as I kind of mentioned earlier on Wolf, we look at recycling, it's a bit lower than expected. Part of that, again, is just the timing and when we begin with circular materials. Operating budget, again, all departments are doing well. Had nothing to note out of the ordinary. Again, just to reframe it, first quarter for the most part, we kind of see lower expenses in some of the departments, so that will kind of increase. Regards to capital activity, again, the same thing with reserve and loan transfers. That's, you know, some of the activity. A used plow truck was purchased, and just to highlight here to council, The budget amount was $30,000 for the truck, and it did come in slightly over $32,683. However, for the purchases we've made in Q2, that'll be on the Q2 report. We're expecting some surpluses there that will mitigate that, as well as we're expecting the department as a whole to, hopefully, as with last year, maintain some surplus by the end of the year. Just again, to cover any kind of minor fluctuations that when we do budget, we'll kind of see throughout the year. But overall, Howell Island Department's in a strong position with $142,000 of surplus. So yeah, just to reiterate, strong performance across almost all the departments. Nothing kind of raising alarm bells, and as we go into the second quarter and the rest of the year, management will keep monitoring and making sure that we spend within the budget and operate efficiently.
You wanna get this on the table?
Moved by Deputy Mayor Saunders, second by Councillor Holton, that finance report number FN 005-25, 2025 Q1 year-to-date financial report be received.
We have questions.
Couple-
Councillor Ackley.
Couple of quick ones, the recycle on Howe Island, you said it was underperforming, but you said it's just timing, money's
Yeah.
not coming and flowing there for that, so I understand that part. The truck that we purchased, was that including repairs that we had to do safety wise or whatever? The 32,683, or do we have to put repairs on top of that? Like safety check,
Direct the question.
oh, sorry, safety check, well, sorry. Because just, safety check, otherwise brakes, whatever it might have needed.
Through you, Madam Mayor, I'll ask Chief Quinn to answer that for you.
So through you, Madam Mayor, the answer is no. The safety check general maintenance will fall under the maintenance, vehicle maintenance line.
Yeah.
That covers all of the municipal
But
vehicles.
that was a little extra than the truck purchase, that,
Correct, the number before you is just the purchase.
just eat from my books. On the other hand, I see administration in every section, almost every section on your little pages here. And it says here, administration in the very first one is 645 budgeted. And this is, we used 161,000 and 483, and then I go down to the operating expenses and we used 845, 176, and we'll have 699. Can you explain that, Spencer?
So at the top of the page,
Yeah.
administration, that's the revenues budgeted for the
Mhm.
department. And then below is the actual operating expenditures. So basically, if I'm understanding your question, we're measuring two separate things, like in each of those tables, like one's the revenue, one's the expenditures for the department. For example, administration, the largest revenue piece would be the OMPF funding that we
Mhm.
receive, so again, that revenue we receive throughout the year in installment payments, so it's not gonna directly be tied to when we incur expenses.
Okay, that's all my questions.
Mayor Saunders?
Thank you, Member. First of all, I want to thank staff for all the work that's gone into putting us into the financial position we're in right now. Now, I want to particularly note the work that done by all of council to make judicious decisions about what to do with our money. Many people have made choices about not attending conferences and stuff like that, all with the intent to manage our costs. So I want to thank all of council for doing that. One, I guess, point I would make is it's not uncommon in some organizations that once you are under budget, to find ways to spend that money because you have to spend the budget. And I think it would be prudent on us to make sure that we continue our cost effectiveness and we don't get tempted into, well, there's money left over, let's buy something, especially if it wasn't already budgeted for. So I just ask staff to continue that approach. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Okay, Councillor Holton,
No question, thanks.
Councillor Duplanity,
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Gotta say again, staff, great job. That's the best I've seen this budget at the first quarter since I've been in business here in the last couple of years, so really well done, fantastic. Yeah, I think, it's good to see we're actually trying to get some of our mandates, is actually putting money back in the council. I go with Deputy Mayor Sarno's comments about not spending the money that we have it, and I agree. Let's keep money in the council, let's get that built back up again, so we can actually do something next term around, there's next people for next term around, let's keep building up the funds up. But great job by staff again, fantastic. Thank you.
okay, I just had a question that, and it was related before in that previous meeting. like to know where we're at for the reserves, a separate report on that.
Yep.
And I realize we're not filing money into the reserves from this aspect, but knowing where we're at for the reserves, even for last, year would be very helpful. And I know KPMG is still working through, and it'll probably be June when we have our report for the results of last year's audit.
Through you, Madam Mayor, so the audit actually takes place the second week of June, so the audit report would be July. Currently, I'm preparing for the audit, and with that, obviously becomes updating the reserve, so as part of that process, I'd be more than happy to kind of bring a report on the status, just where they are. Again, just, it will be helpful just to provide you the update once we know where all the numbers go, but.
Okay. And aside from that, yes, I'm very pleased that, you know, we have reports that we can have great confidence in. And hopefully the rest of the year will continue on in a good fashion and that things happen.
Yeah.
All right, so no other questions? All those in favor of receiving the report? Carry. Okay, now we have finance report FI 006-25 Parish Hall lease agreement.
Thank you, through you, Madam Mayor, my last report for the day. If you recall at the last council meeting, our CAO prepared a report on potential to enter into a long-term lease agreement for the use of the space of the parish hall. Part of that report stated that staff would bring a report to council that would highlight the financial costs of that venture. As part of this report today, what I prepared in front of you is the estimation of what would be the net annual operating costs for the parish hall. Again, I'd like to thank St. Philomena's Church, a representative from there provided us with information on their operating from the year prior. And that allowed us to have a little bit more accuracy with the numbers. Again, they are kind of estimations based on that information, based on our own costing for things. But in a general sense, I think what's provided here would be a fairly accurate representation of what it would cost the township. Not to kind of go into too much, those were kind of the cost here, salary benefits. We have our hydro and heating, water treatment, snow removal and grass cutting. There could be potential for the township to take it in-house when that would be more recognized as salary and benefits. As it currently stands, the church might have contracts for those services that may need to be upheld if we entered into a long-term lease. So that's why they were left there separately. The building maintenance, that one again, at this time, our chief building official has inspected the building just for to see the status of things, if there's any significant problems that we should be aware of. And that for the first year was just kind of the cost highlighted that would be needed just to make sure as a township operating, it would kind of meet our requirements. And then we have insurance, cleaning, and then supplies and miscellaneous, all relatively straightforward there. So what we end up with is $14,335 to operate it annually. Again, just to give council context, so right now, when you include what we tax Howe Island residents for their 30% split of the general departments plus the Howe Island departments, that $14,000 represents 1.18% of the current tax levy. So there is an increase there if the township would take it on. And as stated in the report, at the budgeting time, there were conversations surrounding this, so this $14,000 is not something that has been previously budgeted for. I did want to note, and again, we'll kind of hopefully have a report next council just on the reserves and where they're at. There was a surplus last year for culture and rec. The septic system that we did at Patrick Norris Park came in under budget, and as well as the departments. So for context, if this was something that we did take on this year, I would, with the lease agreement, bring a report to council saying, we have this much in reserves to fund it for this year. And then going forward, it'd be something that would be included as part of the budget, like taxed. So again, just for implementation, they're likely enough into reserves to cover taking it on. While I did have this report, just to kind of add clarity and kind of help answer some of the questions, there was two things I wanted to highlight. The first is that based on the preliminary discussions we've had, so at this point, there's nothing written to paper. But based on our discussions and what we voiced, would be potential township concerns. One of the talking points is that the township wouldn't be charged a nominal rent fee to use the space. So as you noticed, there was no rent cost included by analysis. Again, with contracts, there's usually a small amount, just as far as kind of the setting up the legal structure, but there would not be, for example, like $1,000 of rent charged a month or any arrangement like that. The other piece that we were discussing is with this agreement, the township, again, would be looking to have a lease, set at least probably a minimum of 5 years. But as we would not be owners, the one thing is we didn't want the township to be at risk of having to cover major financial repairs. Again, it is an older building, and from what we looked at, it's in good standing. But it becomes a larger issue. For example, if the roof needed to be replaced, then we're looking, at $50,000 or $100,000 or larger capital expenses there. So what has been discussed is the township would be responsible for any minor maintenance of the building. Again, just things that kind of get fixed up quickly, what we wouldn't consider to be, major capital outlays or major capital expenditures. And ultimately with this agreement, should there be something that comes up down the road, the township's kind of risk or investment is just limited to the cost to the cost for the township to operate it. So for example, if we used it for 2 years, we would obviously incur, hydro costs, heating costs, and, other costs that might come up. If something came up and the church, it'd be their building, they decided they didn't want to go through with the major repairs. At that point, we would probably just cease operating, but we wouldn't be left with a bill. So it kind of protects the township from, significant financial costs. Again, just want to go over high level. If this goes forward, the idea still is to bring the written lease to council for council to review and ratify. So, all of this would be, put into proper legal wording and structure. I did just want to kind of explain some of the, thought from management on how this kind of looks feasible for the township. So in conclusion, just the operating, the minor maintenance, keeping the lights on and keeping it available for residents of Howell Island to use. The total is $14,335.
Okay.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Moved by Councillor Ackley, second by Deputy Mayor Saunders, that finance report number FN 006-25, Parish Hall estimated annual operating costs be received, and that council authorizes the finalization of a lease agreement, which a copy of the lease will be brought to council to be ratified.
That's a question.
Actually, I'm gonna go in reverse since
Yeah.
this is for how, Councillor Jablonski.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Jess, when you say minor repairs, is there like a limit you're thinking, $1,000, $500 for repair limits, or what for repair limits for minor
Yeah.
repairs?
Yeah, so I think through my perspective, there are minor things that you fix, so I think ultimately, it becomes down to township preference, but I'd say major, again, from my perspective, for what we operate, over $10,000, a little bit higher, a little bit more significant. What I said in the lease, like if there's something, again, if we have this agreement, I think the intention would be to follow through and use it, but again, if there's something, it was too high of a cost and the township did not want to cover it, at that point, we just express our interest, to no longer be, leasing the building.
Okay.
But I think, again, with the budget, we'd probably budget, around $5,000 a year to cover those costs, and then, maybe anything in excess, would be brought to council and, make the decision, do we want to put money in to continue the operations?
Great. Thank you very much. No questions.
Hey, Councillor Halton?
I guess I'm just wondering why we got to here. Are we in danger, like as a community, of you losing the use of that hall? Are they thinking that they might have to shut it down, or is?
Through you, Madam Mayor, I think the thought is that there's a want in the community to have a space to meet in. It's not actively used. There are a few groups that rent it. with the township, with us taking on the lease, we probably have more involvement, we'd be in there, for the minor repairs and stuff, we would, things can get caught early. And the township can fix it, I think the long term is with the use and kind of maintaining, the general minor maintenance that allows the building to be in good standing. And then hopefully last longer as something that can be used in the community. I think at this point from the township perspective is we obviously don't have any control or ownership. So it's, it's the church's decision what they do with the building. This kind of allows us to, step in and collaborate and make sure we have that space available for people on the island.
So I guess my only, it's a fairly large budget item. If you're not in danger of losing a facility right now, I would suggest we wait till budget time to see what we're gonna do with it. That's just my thought.
Deputy Mayor Saunders.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So for perspective, there's a lot of interest amongst how Islanders to do something like this. There's a lot of historical value with the parish hall. It is the one place on the island that we do have, where we can have community events or social events or whatever. However, the devil's in the details. So through Madam to the treasurer, the 1.18% that this 14,000 represents. So in theoretical terms, if the tax rate was 4%, does this make it 5.18?
No, through Madam Mayor, this just represents 1.18% of the levy. So it wouldn't be like everyone taxes go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. And I appreciate you looking into the details regarding the building and stuff like that. So one of the assets the building has, or whatever that we need to be concerned about, is the well and the septic. I would ask that the lease include who maintains those. They could be extremely expensive. I mean, the church, don't think of the church as a landowner, but anyway, the church is basically gonna rent this to us, and I think they have a certain responsibility for those basic services to be in place. So I'd ask that it's clear on in the lease who looks after those. And that's it, thank you.
Okay, Councillor Ackley.
And again, I do believe it's a big budget item, and would you know directed to Chief Quinn or Mike? Would he know how, or Madam Mayor through you, would he know how big the tile bed is and is a holding tank, and would we be pumping this, would we be paying to pump this on a more regular basis?
Direct it to the CEO first, and she
Oh,
can
sorry.
figure out the best person to answer it.
Cause that alone's a cost.
Certainly. Thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor, if Chief Quinn can answer some of that, and then we can continue on from there.
Okay.
So through you, Madam Mayor, to Councillor Ackley, the septic system is relatively new, and it was added when the addition at the front of that hall, the original hall, and then they added an addition. When that was constructed, it's Health Canada approved, it's a septic tank and
Tile bed.
tile bed, yeah, sorry, tile bed, so it would require whatever pumping, whatever, how many years you do the regular septic system. Pump it.
And it's not joined with the church, it's its own system, correct?
Correct.
And would we be paying that? Cause we're gonna be using it on a more regular basis?
Thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor, that would be something we would discuss during our lease, but
So costs could go up more, and then we got snow removal, grass cutting, cleaning services. Cleaning service seems like an awful lot of money, but that's based on how many times we thought they were gonna rent it out, or?
Yeah, through Madam Mayor, that's based on cleaning services currently for Howe Island, like we have buildings cleaned, so using those rates of how much it would need to be cleaned at those buildings just to maintain the space, so again, yeah, that's where the kind of the basis for those numbers are.
And I did have one more question. Heat and hydro, so would we be, again, looking after the furnace or cleaning the furnace, cause we're gonna be in and out of there an awful lot, and again, it seems like we're gonna use up an awful lot of stuff. We might save a few bucks and we will collect the revenue.
Yes.
from rent?
So through Madam Mayor, it would be, there might need to be slight adjustment to the fees and fair bylaw, but as with the community hall, we'd have set rate rents that would, be township wide. So the revenue again, if groups come in, we would be collecting the revenue. And I think just clarification, this report some of the numbers again, kind of factor that stuff in, but if you're looking at it, just if we sign this lease, we're basically paying the cost to keep the lights on and run the building. And then that stays with the township.
Yeah, again, I believe I'm with Counselor Holton. Due to the fact that we're gonna spend a lot of money, we haven't budgeted for this. Yes, we can get the money from somewhere else, but we don't know the whole deal yet either, so it's pretty hard to grasp something 100% from a bunch of numbers on a piece of paper that I'm more sure about all the other stuff you were hitting for us than I am this, because there's lots of costs that could end up costing our township. And the way I look at it, I'm all for building our own stuff and saving money to build our own stuff, because then it's our stuff, not somebody else's, and the costs are our costs and our township costs, as in taxes and whatever, rather than if it's time for it to go, and does it cost us any money right now, other than renting it? Zero, right?
Okay, so I have a few comments as well. I'm of the same mind. I think it's actually an unnecessary risk and expense in that for the township and the taxpayers when we can rent it from the Good Sisters and that. And the concern about what is a minor capital and considering whether it's over 5,000 or over 10,000, that to me, that's still a high figure in that for something like this as a capital item that, I'm thinking light bulbs are your minor capital in that, not significant pieces. And I know the expenses that can be associated with water and heat and hydro and liability as well, and that if the pipes freeze, et cetera, and that. So honestly, I don't see the value of basically taking on this debt when people can rent that hall and we can rent that hall at any point in time with less liability in that. And it wasn't part of any budget process and it hasn't come before the community in general and that. So I would not be in favor at this point in time either. Okay.
So, through you, Madam Mayor, what I will do is reread the motion. And then if anyone wishes to amendment, they can make a motion to amend the motion that's on the floor.
Or we can defeat it. Correct.
Well, you need to receive it
Right.
at least, at the very least.
Yeah.
So the motion that's on the floor right now is moved by Councillor Ackley, seconded by Deputy Mayor Saunders, that finance report FN 006-25 Parish Hall estimated annual operating costs be received, and that council authorizes the finalization of lease agreement, which a copy of the lease will be brought to council to be ratified.
Okay, so what I've heard from around the table is potential a motion to strike the last sentence of this on moving forward on the finalizing the lease agreement at this point in time. Would somebody like to put that forward? Councillor Ackley? Would somebody like to second that? Councillor Hogan? Okay, any further discussion on that? Reach the clerk. We need to read that. We'll read that first sentence, we can have discussion.
So the motion amendment on the table, moved by Councillor Ackley, seconded by Councillor Holton, that council strike the second paragraph from the motion. Is there any discussion on that?
Okay, Councillor Deputy Mayor Saunders?
Thank you, Member. I want to point out to council that this is not approving the lease. what I expect will happen next is staff will go away and continue discussions with the church, bring forward all the issues that have been identified, then come back with, you're saying final, but basically another draft piece for further discussion. So I believe we should continue with the process, given the interest and the potential to lose the hall and deterioration of the hall, and make our decision based on more information, which would come with the next discussion from staff. That's what I asked council to consider and basically defeat the amendment.
Any other discussion on the amendment? Councilor Holt?
So. I didn't listen close enough. It is, I agree with Bill. I think you should go ahead. I'd like to see, go ahead, if it's not too much staff time, and see what the actual lease would look like, but not commit to anything until, like I said, I would like to not commit to anything until budget time, but we'd have at least have all the information.
I'll make the point that, that paragraph that's to be struck in this amendment, that the council authorize the finalization of lease agreement, which a copy of this lease be brought to the council to be ratified. I'll be voting in favor of eliminating that paragraph,
Which is what's on the floor right
which is what's on the floor right now. Whether anything else gets talked about over the course of the next few months, and that could be directions to council, from the council, to move forward in some fashion, bring it back to budget, whatever. But this stops any arranging for a lease agreement at this point in time if we remove that paragraph, and that's what I'm comfortable with today.
I guess through you, Madam Mayor, I think too, like this is for council, if we go forward, I think, you know, going slow is fine. In CO or Vanessa Latimer's original report, their legal team will be drafting the agreement, so I think we want to make sure that, you know, there is interest, we do want to proceed, not that we would, you know, sign it, but staff in the direction to next time and, you know, seriously consider looking at putting something together.
Okay, so let's vote on the amendment piece first, and that, which is regarding the removal of this particular clause before we get to the point of directions. All those in favor of removing that final paragraph? Carried. Okay,
So the main motion now is moved by Councillor Ackley, second by Deputy Mayor Saunders, that finance report number FN 00625, Parish Hall estimated annual operating costs be received.
any discussion?
No discussion.
Okay, Deputy Mayor Saunders?
Thank you, Mayor. So what direction does staff take with this? With what's the next step for staff, if any?
Through you, through you, Madam Mayor, sorry. We could do another amendment where council directs staff to proceed with discussions and to bring further information back for council consideration.
Add budget, and if I can just add to it, would that be reasonable?
However you would like to put that amendment in.
So we should vote on this particular motion first and then directions.
No, if you want to do an amendment to this one, so the only thing that's on the floor right now is just receiving the report. So if council wishes to give staff further direction, we can put an amendment on the floor where council directs staff to proceed with discussions with the parish hall, or St. Evangelist Church, in the Archdiocese, and bring back further information for consideration during budget.
Okay, any further discussion?
Well, I need a mover and seconder if that's
Yeah.
what we wish to do.
So I would move that
Okay.
That's
motion.
Do we have a seconder for that? Councillor Ackley will second it.
So moved by Deputy Mayor Saunders, second by Councillor Ackley, that council direct staff to proceed with discussions with the Archdiocese regarding a lease and to bring back further information to be considered for budget.
Okay, further discussion, Councillor Jablonski,
Nope. Good, thank you.
Councillor Holton,
No, I think that's a good amendment.
okay, Councillor Ackley, Deputy Mayor Saunders. Okay, I still think it's a unnecessary expense because while there might be funding, if we do move forward in the reserves, we know that it will go on to the taxes at the later date, so I don't see the point in having further discussions at this point in time when it's not in your budget. But we'll call the vote. All those in favor of the amendment? Carried.
Okay, now back to the main motion. Moved by Councillor Ackley, seconded by Deputy Mayor Saunders, that finance report number FN 006-25 Parish Hall estimated annual operating costs be received, and that council direct staff to proceed with discussions with the Archdiocese regarding a lease and to bring back further information to be considered for budget.
Okay, further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Carried. Okay. Thank you for your report.
Thank you.
Now, we're at administrative report number AD 012-25, advocacy for review of rural index for Ontario Rio Store.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, just bear with me while I log on here.
Would you like to get this report on the table first?
Moved by Councillor Jablonski, seconded by Deputy Mayor Saunders, that administration report number AD 012-25, advocacy for review of rurality index for Ontario RIO score be received, and that council direct staff to work with NPP Sue's office and AMO to advocate for a review of the Township of Frontenac Island's rurality index for Ontario, the Rio score, with the Ministry of Health in order to obtain a rural and remote designation that would support funding for full-time healthcare services on Wolf Island. Sorry, score by the Ministry of Health, sorry, yeah. So for those around council that have not been involved with this, the Wolf Island Medical Center have been working diligently to try and obtain a rural and remote designation for particularly Wolf Island, but the Township of Frontenac Islands has a Rio score, which is the rurality index of 33. In order to qualify for the rural and remote and for funding, we would need a score of 40. The members of the medical clinic have been trying to work with Front of Young, which have been designated. They seem to be not having much luck with or success with that. Debbie Miller, who is the economic development with the County of Frontenac, has been working on the medical aspect for the county. The county had hired 80/20 info looking into stuff. So she has looked into various aspects. She keeps getting back the same kind of wall that we seem to be hitting. So it's been recommended that we see if Ted Hughes' office can do any kind of advocating on our behalf to have our Rio score reviewed for Frontenac Islands, and as well as reaching out to AMO to see if they can do anything on our behalf with the Ministry of Health.
Okay. Questions? Councillor Ackley,
I don't have any questions.
Deputy Mayor Saunders.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to thank the CEO for putting this report together. I haven't had the opportunity to get involved in this to some degree, but just touching the surface. And as the CEO has mentioned, it's extremely complex. I just jotted down some names here. I know that Debbie Miller, I want to thank Debbie for the work she's done, basically as a outside of her normal job, to help us understand it. I reached out to Steve Clark's office to find out why or how they found it for Fund of Young, was it? And the response back there was they have no idea. Their indication was it's a dead end. The work that the CEO has done, the board members of the Wolf Island Medical Center have been running in circles trying to get some answers to this. We had this email from Liam, I forget Liam's last name, who works for some offshoot of the Ontario Medical Association, saying that basically nothing's gonna happen unless it's done province-wide. We thought Stats Canada was part of it. Apparently Stats Canada has nothing to do with it. My point being, this is extremely complex, and I think what we need is a very clear plan on how to approach it. I think if we start doing a shotgun, check with them, check with that, which we've been doing, it's getting us nowhere. So I think we need a very clear plan on how to approach this. I suspect that the recommendation of the CEO working with Hugh's office is the right way to go. But I quite frankly don't hold up much hope that office is going to be able to help us. So thank you for the report. This is extremely frustrating.
Okay, Councillor Halton.
I guess my only comment would be good luck, because it does not seem like they want to change any of what they've come up with, but I think it's worth trying. Good luck.
Okay, Councillor Jablonski.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Yeah, I feel your pain. There are no ones who know how the IRO works. You know, it could be Ministry of Health, could be, we thought it was Stats Can too. And no, so as usual, government is really clear and easy to work with. It's more convoluted I've ever seen something in my entire life. So yeah, I guess the only way to do it is go the old fashioned way. We start working our way up from here, council, county, AMO, but I just don't have much faith in that approach. But what else can you do?
Okay. Well, I have been working on this, and I was the one that initially identified our bad scoring in that, and it does loop back to Stats Canada, and we've had a conference call with them. We're getting this fixed. This is exactly why we were to have the delegation with Ministry of Health last year. That half the delegation time was to be towards the rural isolated remote, and this was part and parcel. And we should have an application in for delegation again at AMO this year for the Ministry of Health on this topic. I will be attending AMO. I have not only the history of it, but the credibility of it, because I'm also the chair of the economic development for the county. I'm the vice chair of the Southeast Health Unit, and I am a healthcare professional in that. And this should have been addressed last year, but our meeting unfortunately did not occur. And I think we should put a delegation in now and let me focus on this so that we can get somewhere, because I do believe it will be decided at the ministry level. And I have access to ministry people and that in my various roles and have had for many years. But if I don't have support in moving forward on this, then we can chase our tail as long as we want, but it's not going to happen well. And I think that there's an opportunity for us to get it done right and get it done at the ministry level, and I'd be happy to present it. Councillor Jablonski.
No, I think, like, Madam Mayor, it's time to go this route. Unfortunately, I just, again, don't have much hope in it. We did go with the conference last year for other safety health concerns. They fell into dead ears. So, yeah, I mean, this is a process we have to go through, and we're gonna have to do it then. But I'd like to think we could choose our council, the people going to represent it. And my question goes to the CEO, to the Madam Mayor. When we do a conference at AMO, does it have to be council members only, or can staff or other people who are involved in this medical clinic group accompany to the meeting? Because there are some really smart people with great negotiating techniques on that team. It'd be shamefully wasted.
Through you, Madam Mayor, certainly staff would be able to go in and meet with the ministry or their delegates, whomever. With regards to outside, I'm not 100% sure. I would think they would be able to, as long as we had advised who would be attending. But certainly you can leave that with me and I will get back to everybody and let them know.
Yeah, no, thank you. just one more thing, we're gonna put a staff together, a group together, this IRO thing and approach it. I wanna have the staff, I wanna have the people in place who are gonna negotiate properly, good faith, and make this work. So this month, then we get all the good card players in here, let's do it properly. Thank you.
Okay, so what I'm hearing, then there should be a direction to staff to make an application for a delegation at AMO to the Ministry of Health for this topic, with further information to follow as to who will be forming the delegation.
Through you, Madam Mayor. So it wouldn't be an application, it's the requests are up now for the delegations.
Yeah.
I believe they close at the end of this month, so I wouldn't be able to come back in June. So if council wishes to have staff submit a delegation request to AMO with regards to meeting with the Ministry of Health, I'd be certainly happy to do that.
Okay, Councillor Devonaghy.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. One more question. Is the Ministry of Health who we should be focusing on?
Through you, Madam Mayor, yes, because so the rural and remote designation, the Rio score is based on through the Ontario Medical Association, which my understanding, the healthcare falls under the province as opposed to the federal level, so.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Holt.
I personally have not seen any results from the delegations. I would sooner that if we're going to work this, that we try and get a hold of, well, we'll go through Ted Hsu, but I mean, try and reach out to Steve Clark and the MPs that are on the right side of the floor around us and see if we can actually get a hold of somebody at the ministry to come and sit down with us. Delegations, they seem to give you your 15 minutes and throw your stuff out when you leave, so.
Okay. So is there the will of council to get a request in for a Ministry of Health delegation at the upcoming AMO? Is the first question. And then the second question will be, is there the will of council to direct staff to contact other MPPs of a conservative persuasion to see if they may be of help? Are those the two that I'm hearing? Okay, so on the first direction to staff to request a delegation status at AMO, show of hands.
Sorry, you're putting amendment on the floor, Madam Mayor?
It's a direction to staff. Do we need to have a motion for that?
Well, we should, if council's just going to provide direction, that's fine, we can do that after, but the motion on the floor right now, we should deal with that first, or we need to deal with that first.
Could you read the motion again? We'll
Yep.
figure out whether we need amendments on it first.
So moved by Councilor Jablonski, seconded by Deputy Mayor Saunders, that the administration report AD 012-25 advocacy for rural, for review of the Rio score be received, and that council direct staff to work with MPP Sue's office and AMO to advocate for a review of the Township of Frontenac Islands Rio score by the Ministry of Health in order to obtain a rural and remote designation that would support funding for full-time healthcare services on Wolf Island. So it's not anything to do with delegation request.
And it's not really within the purview of AMO for being of influence to that. The opportunity is at AMO for the delegation aspect. It might be in the purview of Roma, which is a rural Ontario municipal association. Councillor Saunders.
Madam Mayor, my, again, limited perspective on this is the message coming out of the Ontario Medical Association, the remote arm of the Ontario Medical Association, I might add, not Ministry of Health, was this is going to be done province-wide. So I think whether it's AMO or Roma doesn't ready, I just don't think we're ready. I think we have to have a clear picture on how complicated this is, and we make a succinct point to whoever we bring it to. It's so convoluted, I think, again, I say we want this from this group and this from that group or whatever. Nobody's gonna understand it. I don't think we're ready. I think we need to put more time into truly understanding how this works and how to get it changed and then make our pitch to those organizations. And I think maybe the help of the county would help as well, but anyway, that's right.
We'll go around one more time. Counselor Holt.
I would suggest, you've mentioned that you have quite a few contacts through your other committees, that you reach out and see if you can bring us back a contact that could work with us. I think that's a better route. If you already have an established relationship and contact with them, let's get them here and have them help us out.
Okay. As I've always indicated, I'm a results-oriented person.
Yeah.
And that, so delegation status gets us right to the ministry level. That is exactly where it can be leveraged best. What we can gain is support from MPPs. I can give you an example of other organizations that I've worked with. We've literally stretched our arms out to MPs in a scenario and we had 22 respond. In this particular case, Mallory Town's obviously already had success. So convoluting it into a province-wide approach, I don't believe is necessary. This is a surgical exception that we're looking for. And this is a surgical exception that can be done through a minister's order. So getting to that level, they're not coming to talk with this council and that. We go to them as a delegation, and that's where we get to it.
So you're not willing to reach out to some of your contacts and see if they could help us on this? You said you've worked with them before, and
Yeah.
to me, that's what you need, is an established relationship, and then you can have those people come back and,
That's why I'm willing to work with my trusted contacts to move this forward
okay.
and that. So that's not what you're suggesting. That's me moving it forward through the contact lines, making the case known, which I was happy to make known last year, wasn't. And I believe it still needs to happen.
So what I'm suggesting is that you reach out to your contacts, and then maybe they can come back and work with Vanessa on some of the stuff she's working with and give her further direction. Maybe they can tell us an exact direction we need to go. I think we need to work the contacts that we already have.
On that case, the current direction of her to work with Ted Shue's office, that's exactly what her the administrative staff will work at through the administrative process. When you're talking about personal connections, those are trust relationships that are built up over the course of time. So the administrative process, if that's the strategy you want to go via Ted Shue's office, and as an MPP, whether he's a liberal or a conservative, they're to be respected within the legislature, and they should be able to get this solved. If they can't, and we can't find out from Mallory Town as to how they managed to do it, it may be that it didn't follow any particular process. It was a surgical excision. Okay.
Any further discussion on the motion that's on the floor?
I just need to be clear on what we're gonna vote for here. So,
Let's give us the motion.
I will reread the motion that's on the floor with no amendments to it. Moved by Councilor Jablonski, seconded by Deputy Mayor Saunders, the administration report 80012-25, advocacy for the review of the Rio score be received, and that council directs staff to work with NPP SU's office and AMO to advocate for a review of the Township of Frontenac Island's Rio score by the Ministry of Health in order to obtain a rural and remote designation that would support funding for full-time healthcare services on Wolf Island.
Okay, so to be clear, there's no amendment been put forward that we request a delegation status at AMO.
so nobody's going to AMO at this point.
No.
I'm gonna go to AMO on that. but
Yeah,
this-
I know what you're
this-
doing,
This,
so.
this will not be a delegation status unless
Okay,
there's a motion to move that forward.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay,
call it.
And I see no more discussion. All those in favor? Carried. Okay, now we're at action items. Dave Cheeseborough, Howe Island Rockin' in the Rock, request for an exemption to the noise bylaw.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Saunders, second by Council Ackley, that the request received from David Cheeseborough requesting an exemption to the noise bylaw for the Howe Island Rock in the Rock being held on July 19th, 2025, be granted as requested.
Okay. Discussion, Councillor Ackley,
No, I have no discussion on it.
okay, Deputy Mayor
Pretty straightforward.
Saunders,
No, thank you.
Councillor Halton,
No questions on this.
Councillor Zabonaki,
Thank you, ma'am. July 19th, it's probably the same time we're having our fire department fundraiser
Oh,
too.
yes.
They can't shift it 1 week, so I wouldn't mind going to this. No,
No,
I'm just kidding. I agree. This is,
maybe the other guys can shift.
Me too, I'll be in Newfoundland.
well, you talk about people.
Madam Mayor, if I could, I did have a comment or a question. but I
Oh, you did?
Thank you. So if we approve this, this is not approving the event yet. There must be additional requirements or approvals required?
correct. There's a checklist that he has to provide, like, just example, insurance, health unit, fire inspection. They have to provide a emergency plan for the fire. If there's any other buildings and stuff like that, he would need our CPO to go out and inspect them and that kind of thing. So there is a further checklist that is required.
Okay. And when does that have to happen by? This is time's a ticking here.
Time is a ticking, the sooner the better, just so we can incorporate and make sure if anything, he needs to do anything, as a result of that checklist, either by, our CDO or, our fire chief, that he has the time to do that, to make sure it's ready and good to go for the 19th of July.
And township staff are supporting his efforts to get those approvals?
We're working with them, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Halton,
No questions.
Councillor Zabonaki?
No.
Okay, in this detailed sheet, are you saying that there's anything that isn't showing up in this sheet that needs to be done as well for approval? Because this to me is the understanding of Mr. Cheeseborough as to what needs to occur.
So he has sent off drawings of the stage, which were developed in Europe. I know he is working with Marcel with regards to those, so I'm not saying everything is compliant at this point. I'm just saying the staff is working with him to do.
No, but is there anything else on this list? Is there anything that's, is there a hoop that he has to jump through that isn't mentioned on this particular list? Because this is a big financial adventure for this person, an outlay, et cetera. And I don't want to have rude surprises at the tail end that he wasn't aware of. And since he's provided a fairly detailed list, if there's something else, I want to know about it now so that he knows about it.
Quick review of this, I would just say, he needs to still submit those documents for the food vendor, the AGCO, all of that kind of stuff. Health unit approval and that, but he's got it covered here. Like I said, with regards to the load structure and that type of thing for the stage, I know he's working with Marcel on that.
So that's the wild card in that, because it may be designed in Europe and you've seen lots of venues that get hit by a gust of wind and everything happens, so that is the one piece that is expected to be the big hurdle, correct?
Potentially,
Okay,
depending.
okay. All right. So, any further questions?
Nope.
Okay, all those in favor of receiving?
No, we're not,
Oh, we have
receiving, we're granting the noise exemption.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah,
Okay, yep,
we've got it moved and seconded.
yep, yep.
Okay, all those in favor? Carried. Okay, City of Richmond Hill resolution for sport provincial regulations needed to restrict keeping of non-native exotic wild animals.
Moved by Counselor Twonky, second by Counselor Holton, that the request for resolution support received from the city of Richmond Hill for the provincial regulations needed to restrict keeping of non-native exotic wild animals be endorsed or received and filed.
Okay, any questions, Councillor Ackley?
I don't have any questions. We
Deputy
keep
Mayor
those, so-
Saunders?
Thank you.
Councillor Holton?
No question.
Councillor Zawanaki?
No questions.
I take it llamas and emus and ostriches may or may not be, because we are agricultural in our area, and I know that there are markets for things like that.
Llamas, definitely not. Emus, I don't believe so. Ostrich, I cannot answer off the top of my head. My apologies, Madam Mayor.
I'm just thinking things that are, and buffalo, we've had those as well. I'm just wondering, there's no definition attached to this as exotic, other than non-native and that, so. Ostriches and emus are definitely non-native, and so are llamas. Just don't want to get us backed into a corner for the.
We're just
farmers.
receiving this, Madam Mayor. We're just
We can
receiving.
either endorse it or receive it and file, whichever council wishes to do.
Okay. I think from my perspective, I'd be more comfortable with just receiving it.
Yeah.
At this point in time.
Okay, thank you.
Is council in agreement?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
All those in favor?
Here we go. Okay, now we have the Integrity Commissioner's report.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Saunders, second by Counselor Holton, that council receive the Integrity Commissioner report.
And I'm going to hand the chair over to Deputy Mayor Saunders. As I indicated at the start of the meeting, I will step away from this.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So, as we proceed, so the report is on the table, is that correct?
Correct, yes.
So any discussion on the report? And I'll start with Councilor Holton.
I just went through it, I think highlights a couple of our main issues. We want to advocate for the best service, like when it comes to the ferry for sure. And we need to be all on the same page when we're doing things. So, I mean, it needs to be a council message that's carried by everyone. I also think in the report, I would say it was a slight to our CAO and our deputy mayor, and I would suggest that there's an apology in order for that. That's all.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Yulbani.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Sanders. I'm still dumb with that. This could have been talked through, but oh well. I mean, more money wasted out the window. I have one question directed to Jesse. Through you, Madam Mayor, if I could find out how much we spent on Integrity Commissioner fees over the last 2 years and change, because I'm sure it's amounting to something stupid amount. We're hoping to try to save some money, get our books back in place. And I hate to see money frivolously wasted because of lack of people being able to talk their problems out. So, oh well, still there, I guess. Nothing else.
Thank you. Councilor Ackley.
Well, I'm in the same ballpark. I put the mayor above me by far because she's ways matter, you know. But when we vote together, and you went outside the line, and I'm not very impressed. And we are spending an awful lot of money on these fees when we can handle this or talk together and make a better decision on who does what and what does who and when. It's just upsetting that I put my trust in you, Madam Mayor, and I think you failed us on this one. Like you went around us again, and we're supposed to be a team. We talk team, and that's what we need to be, not lone wolves. I'm sorry, I don't know what the repercussions should be, but I held you at a more no person than I'll probably ever be. Cause you've been in this for longer, so I'm not liking what I'm seeing.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, for your turn, or ask you for your comments. I'll comment on a couple of things. One is, I would support, first of all, the recommendation that we make the integrity commissioner is recommending we amend section 4, section 4.4. I recommend we do that. I assume that would need council's approval. And then secondly, I want to reiterate the comment that Councillor Halton made in your letter, and it's quoted here. To be clear, neither the CEO nor the deputy mayor live on Wolf Island. I was elected to speak for the people and have consistently told you what is needed based on your own 2011 transportation study. That implies to me that the CEO doesn't understand the issues associated with ferry service on Wolf Island. And any discussion I've had with the CEO, I think that's just dead wrong. I think she has a clear understanding. She's developed a relationship with MTO, and I think it's a disservice for a comment like that. So again, I would support Councillor Halton's suggestion that an apology would be in order. So, Madam Mayor.
As I said at the start, this is a conflict for me and I will not be speaking to it.
Thank you. So then, the CEO, do we need a motion to implement recommendation 4. That includes section 4.4?
Through you, Deputy Mayor Saunders, so yes, we can do an amendment to the motion that's on the table, receiving the report. We can put and that council direct staff to amend bylaw 36/2024 to include section 4.4 as per the integrity commissioner's recommendation.
So that's a amendment to the motion. So without reading it again, do we have a mover and a seconder for that motion? Councillor Halton, you move it?
I'll move it.
Councillor Ackley?
Okay.
Second it, sorry about that, didn't mean to be disrespectful. Any discussion on it? All those in favor? Passed. Madam Mayor, I'll turn the chair back to you.
Okay, now we have the town of Aylmer request for support, a motion regarding opposition to expansion of strong mayor's powers. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Excuse me, moved by Councillor Blonke, seconded by Councillor Ackley. The request received from the town of Aylmer requesting support to formally oppose the Ontario government's proposal to expand strong mayor powers to preserve local democracy, transparency, and accountability be received and filed or endorsed.
Okay. Any comments, Councillor Ackley?
I totally oppose having a mayor in superpower, sorry. I don't know how to put it properly, but I don't think it's correct. That's why the whole council's here to make a
Okay,
decision.
so the motion is in opposition of the expansion.
Yeah,
Okay, so
I'm for
it
that.
sounds like you're in favor.
Yeah, I'm
of
in
the
favor of
motion.
this.
Okay.
No comment?
Okay, Councillor Halton, Councillor Blonke?
Thanks, Madam Mayor. This is a democratic process. Anybody got power under one person reminds of the states that we're going through right now. So I fully support this.
Okay, I as well am not supported because I appreciate why that was brought in for a few specific large municipalities. And I disagreed with it then, and I disagree with it that it brings it down to small communities. And I do oppose this, so. So all those in favor of the motion? To oppose, carried. Now, public question period. Anybody in the public that would like to speak to something that's been part of our agenda or upcoming agenda? And that for a question. Put your hand up. I don't see any. I'll check with the clerk. No hands. Okay, I guess we're past the public question period. Now, statement by members. And notices, we'll get to the announcements too, Matt, but statement by minutes.
I'd just like to say thanks to the staff for putting all this together again and keeping us on a upward go.
Deputy Mayor Saunders,
No, thank you, ma'am.
okay, Councillor Holton. Councillor Jablonski,
Nope, nothing today, thank you, Madam Mayor.
okay, I'll say that, it's unfortunate that we had another loss of a great former captain, Wolf Island, Brian Johnson. I understand the funeral arrangements are being made today, and I was appreciative that the flags went down to half-mast fairly quickly for this. I believe he served 38 years as captain. His grandmother was my aunt, so, you know, family thing, we knew things were not going well. And we've lost a great community member because he also did the telephone conversations for the seniors and shut-ins to keep them in touch. He was a great historian, wonderful writer. I hope his book Fairy Tales gets published so we can all get copies of it. It will be, he will be missed. And I will say on a separate note, and that some of the things that come along, for example, training opportunities and that, and the fact that we haven't got anything in the budget for it is unfortunate. There's code of conduct training that AMO was offering for May the 14th. It needs to be registered via the clerk, and we have no funding for it, and that is really unfortunate because as was alluded to in that we've had lots of legal fees related to this, and I actually think that code of conduct training would be helpful. And I know previous training was recommended by the Integrity Commissioner, and that hasn't occurred yet either. So being penny wise and pound foolish, and I hope that next year when we look at the budget, that there will be an expansion of opportunity for education and paying for these conferences. I will say also in that with the return of the Wolf Islander 4 and the one-page communication from MTO and lack of response to immediate requests, that has been very unfortunate in that it's a one-way conversation, and that's the perception that is being held. So we need to improve our communication process, I believe. Anyways, that's the end of my statement, and we'll do notice of motions. Are there any notice of motions, Councillor Ackley?
No.
Deputy Mayor Saunders.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, I plan to bring a motion forward suggesting that we replace the existing land acknowledgement statement with the one currently used by the County of Frontenac.
Okay. Councillor Halton.
No notices.
Okay, Councillor Jablonski.
Nope, no notices, thank you.
And now announcements. Councillor Ackley, any?
I don't know.
Okay,
Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Saunders?
Thank you.
No. Councillor Holton?
Just one community center dance for the recreation group, May 17th. They're trying to raise funds and they seem to be able to spend it. They got pickleball lines painted this year. So that was quite an expense, but it was money they raised. So everybody come out and support them, please.
Okay, on May 17th.
Yeah.
Okay, and Councillor Jablonski?
No notices today, thank you.
Okay, a few things, and that the Moose High campaign, which we supported last year, and that is gonna be May the 15th. It's a campaign that encourages men to speak with other men that are not behaving well on treating and valuing the women and girls in the communities. And it was grassroots, and it's over a decade old, and it is well supported across Canada. I was very pleased to do a video on it last year. It'd be nice if it could be put back up again this year for it. On that same day, May 15th, there is a Howe Island music activity at St. Philomena's Church. And on May the 13th, there's at Lennox and Addington Museum Library on Thomas Street, an in-service on any of the home children. And some people are descendants now of what were called the home children. Over 150,000 British children were sent over the course of years, and that from parents that were deemed as too poor to look after and brought to Canada. So it should be a very interesting in-service by a Queen's Prof. On May the 17th, I'm anticipating the craft shop will also open, and there is a gala at the gallery 5 to 8, and that a welcoming gallery. There have been, this may not be an announcement, but it's something that just to mention. There hasn't been any effort to give direction to MTO on suggestions on naming some of the things such as the terminals at the dock. And with the passing of so many of our former significant island captains and that, we should probably look at doing it, because whether it comes from MTO and that, but the history of significant people on the islands, whether it's Howe Island or Wolf, and that should be commemorated, not just our soldiers that have served us well, and some have laid down their lives in the service, but also the Buck Mullins and the RF Fawcett's and the Kenny Whites and the Brian Johnsons and people that I don't think a lot of people, newer people, understand the life and limbs that were risked by many of the people in the past, and that for the safety of the islanders and that. And I think there should be some sort of acknowledgement, and that would be a project for both islands to undertake, in my view, and that at some point. But I think something should occur rather than just calling Marysville and Kingston Dock, and that if they have some significant features there, like the terminals, we should probably make mention that it would be an opportune time to honor some of the long-serving people in that. Okay. Now, bylaws. We're not getting to the confirmatory bylaw because we're going to resume back into closed session because we were short in our time frame for that. So I'll ask for a motion to resume into closed session, and then we'll discontinue people from there. Correct?
Correct, but if I may ask, Madam Mayor, if we could do like a 10-minute recess, just for a quick washroom breaks,
Okay.
and then we'll come back in at
11:45. Okay, so we'll take a break, and goodbye to everybody on video and that. Thank you very much.
Is council in favor of accepting the evaluation provided by S. Rainer and Associates in the amount of $12,550?
And we can't do recorded vote within closed council?
Plus costs.
They've already
Yeah,
heard those
right.
costs, yes, yes.
Okay.
Okay, all those in favor? Okay. Carried.
That's all I have.
Okay, now,
So moved by Councilor Holton, seconded by Councilor Jablonski, that council adjourn from closed session and rise and report. All those in favor? Motion carried.
okay, now we'll move to the next bylaws. Bylaw 014-2025, confirmatory bylaw.
Just one moment, down there, there's someone still in the waiting room, so.
Really?
Down.
Yeah, okay.
So the motion coming out of closed session is moved by Councillor Holton, second by Councillor Jawaniki, that council accept the appraisal as presented for the portion of the unopened, unmaintained road allowance through a portion of the parcel of property located at 2205 C Road 95, Wolf Island.
Okay, all those in favor? Carried. The confirmatory bylaw, 014-2025.
Moved by Councillor Holton, second by Councillor Jawaniki, that 3 readings and final passage be granted to bylaw 014-2025, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council.
All those in favor? 12:16.
Moved by Councillor Holton, second by Councillor Ackley, the regular meeting of council held May 12th, 2025, adjourned.
All those in favor? Adjourned at 12:16. Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Yeah.
Go ahead, it's up. I don't think much